All right, welcome to another episode of Chiropractic is Sexy. I am Dr. Paula Ruffin.
And I'm Dr. Erica Peabody. We're happy to be here every Thursday. Thank you for joining us.
And today we're talking about fertility and pregnancy. It's a really important topic when it comes to chiropractic because many people don't know how effective chiropractic can be when it comes to fertility and optimizing health and being able to grow life with less complications. And interventions, of course. So that's why we wanted to really dive a little bit deep into pregnancy, fertility, preconception. How do you prepare your body for pregnancy? And chiropractic is going to be one of those ways, as you will see in today's episode. So, Erica, you see a lot of pregnant women and kids, right?
I do. We're the go-to place up here. And in fact, I remember back during COVID when, oh my gosh, so many things are happening with labor and delivery, especially in the hospitals, that one of the home birth midwives reached out and she's like, are we opening a birthing center? And my place actually has enough space for that. We did not, and that won't be happening here. But
That'd be amazing.
I am the go-to place for pregnancy, prenatal care, postpartum, and also pediatrics. So we're always happy to help. And, I don't always share out on my Facebook just how many kids we see and how many full families we see and how much pregnancy we help. But it is a huge part of the work that I do here. So yeah, it's so highly beneficial. Excuse my tumbler here. It was an M22 that all the outside came off, so it looks really rough, but it's a delicious loose leaf tea in here today. So
nice. I love it. Yeah. And I have my water with my minerals in it.
Well, I have this one gal that's under care right now, and she is also under fertility treatments, which we're seeing more and more and more and more and more these days. And it's actually inappropriate, I think. There's a time and space for fertility treatments, but really what's going on is there's too much stress in the body. A baby's not going to enter a body like that. It's like, so she's done cycle after cycle after cycle, which good for her. And then she's like, every single, like I see her weekly. So every single time she's back on, I think it's Clomid. And then there's been like cycle after cycle, but it's like, there's not going to be a baby that's going to want to enter in the level of stress and how would I even say this? It's like there's not enough health in the body, and now it's annihilated by so many cycles of these hormones. And so she's like, after her last pregnancy test 2 weeks ago, so I think she's done like four or five cycles. I'm not sure. After her last pregnancy test, she's like, I'm going to give my body some time. I'm like, I'm going to make a suggestion that you give it 3 months at bare minimum. You have got to get your body cleaned up. There's not going to be the ability to have healthy pregnancy. It just isn't. And people underestimate, and I know there's so much that we could say nutritionally, functional medicine wise, chiropractic wise, but like there's a reason, and it's not to push fertility drugs through the body in order to have a baby. There's a reason.
Let's just talk about where the infertility comes from. And, in chiropractic, we've talked for years about physical, chemical, and emotional stressors on the body, and that decreases the body's ability to express life and heal and function properly. So we have all of that coming at us at a rate that is
alarming.
It's a lot. And what we really want to try to do is offer you all, our listeners, some ways that you can move into a healthier space and stay in a healthier space. And that doesn't mean that you are not going to be exposed to physical, chemical, and emotional stressors. We can't live in a bubble. So we really do have to do our best. And to your point about the whole infertility, we go back, I think we may have touched on this in one of our early episodes on back in the 70s. I remember the first test tube baby and what a controversy it was. And it was like people were in an uproar, and you can't create babies in a test tube. And this is commonplace now because of how our fertility rates have plummeted by 50% over the last 50 years. And we're finding microplastics. We're finding over 250 chemicals in the cord blood of women. We're finding microplastics in male testicles. So it is just seized upon us. And so when you say 3 months, I say 3 months too, and I say 3 to 6, really, which we know is scratching the surface.
It is.
I have a young woman that I'm currently working with, and she came in about 4 months ago. She'd taken a really bad fall down a hard flight of stairs, like right on her tailbone, thought she broke her tailbone, came in, had never been to the chiropractor before. And she was really concerned because she and her husband at the time were trying to get pregnant. And I said, well, first of all, and we talked a little bit about her health history, and she had been diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian. What that means is there's toxic chemicals in the body. The body can't get rid of it safely. And so it walls it off and it forms cysts inside the body. Mm-hmm. And so when you have polycystic ovarian or PCOS, 70 to 80% of these women are infertile. Mm-hmm. And so to your point, when you have an environment that is so highly toxic with chemicals, the body does not want to grow life. Mm-hmm. That's just the long and short of it. So when you go and then you put more toxic chemicals to create a fertile ground, just think about the fact that the tank is empty. It's mm-hmm. completely devoid of the proper nutrients to grow that baby. Now we're going to put more toxic chemicals to kind of like override the breaker switch. Mm-hmm. Well, if we can get to these women before, in the preconception years, and I know you and I both have such a passion for this, but in those preconception years, and say, what do we need to do to make sure your body is cleaned up and clear for life, to grow life, whether you want to be pregnant or not. And also we're going to touch on men. You don't get off the hook on this either. Mm-hmm. So we've got to make sure we're dealing with the toxic load element of this, because it's everywhere. If we don't get those out of the body, and of course, as chiropractors, we're trying to optimize the nervous system. But when you have the chemical stressors still inside, then you're not going to hold your adjustments as well. So we do have to talk about that nutritional piece to make sure that that you're taking care of ourselves from a nutritional perspective, the proper foods, enough hydration, not putting chemicals in. I mean, you're going to put chemicals in whether you want to or not. It's just a matter of controlling your controllables, right?
Yeah. And the other part about it, I mean, speaking from the chiropractic perspective, because you really do know what to eat. You really do know how much water to drink. You just need to actually do it. So it's not that we take that for granted, but and a lot of people will shape themselves up as far as their diet goes when they're growing a baby, once they are pregnant. But that is it's many months before. And really it's the season of life, but then really it extends beyond that to just life in general. So eat well, move well, think well, drink your water, get your rest, but then getting adjusted. So every single time you get adjusted at the chiropractic office, it takes the body from a fight or flight. I don't care who you are, how stressless or what have you, whatever you want to claim that your body's doing. It's going to take from the sympathetic overdrive that every single person in our world lives in. I don't care who you are. And it will take it to the parasympathetic system, which is the feed, breed, rest, digest, and breed was number 2 in there. And the body can't work in overdrive. You can't have somebody who's driving to and from a seated job. So let's just take an example of somebody who commutes an hour, sits for 9, and then commutes back an hour, eats whatever fast food or whatever the standard American, whatever it is, and then sits in the evening, scrolls on a phone, watches TV. There's no workout in there. The level of stress the body's under, even if you could get pregnant don't. Like, even if you
That's
could,
really exactly when I
don't.
tell
Like,
people,
you
I'm
don't
like,
wanna grow a baby like that. I'm
no,
telling
you
you.
can't.
You're setting
And
that
people want
base
to time
precedent.
that. And I'm like, your timing of a baby needs to come after
Mhm.
you've timed your whole let's clean up shop
Yes,
piece, right?
exactly. It needs to
Yeah.
be timed inside. So then I have, moms get pregnant and then they're like, they want to get back to their CrossFit workouts by 6 weeks in, and that's not appropriate. They want to get back to just, back to work even after 6 weeks is like, it's so anti-human, and it just creates stress. And then that just transitions all the way through the body and the brain and the life and the family. And so even though our world is set up that way, it's set up very backwards. And we'll see going forward what comes of like the new administration and stuff like that. But it's like all of this is anti-health. Every single last bit of it is anti-health. And it's a time for mom to definitely still get movement, but it's not the kill yourself movement. It's not stress your adrenals at the gym. You're already stressed enough. And it's not a time to then bounce back. There's no bouncing back after it. It's like you postpartum's forever. You move into a different life. And it's funny because these moms will come in and they're like, well, I just can't get them on the schedule. And these babies are like 3.5 weeks old. You know what I mean? And even with puppies too, it's the same with puppies too.
Right.
It's like I can't get these little tiny beings that are learning how to be on some sort of regular schedule. Like, it's time that life just shifts completely.
And
And
just let them, like, let them do and let them be and let them life.
yeah.
There's no schedule for them. This is where, and this is also, really paying attention to babies. It's such an innate thing to watch a baby because they will sleep when the time is right. They will cry when they're hungry. They will cry when they're wet. Like, their innate being is so powerful, and being able to pay attention to that. And I totally understand the whole, like, it's stressful when the baby's not on a schedule. And I would always say that just when you think you have it all figured out, they change the rules. They still do that.
Mhm.
But this is also where it's like we have to, as humans, be adaptable. And your body doesn't know that. It doesn't know if you're stressed sitting, you're sitting at a computer, going from meeting to meeting, Zoom calls or whatever, taking care of clients, like you're running around doing this thing, racing here. It does not know that that's the environment versus not being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. Your body is still stressed. And so, like you're saying, it's like none of us are, we don't live in a bubble. We're all stressed in some capacity. And it's a matter of how do we adapt our bodies to that stress? What are we doing on a regular basis to make sure that we're bringing the stress levels down? Because again, is life going to want to grow inside of a stressed environment? It can't. There's too many hormones in there that are, think about it. If you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, is your body concerned about getting you pregnant or saving your life? It's about saving your life.
Yeah.
So when you're overly stressed, that is an element in and of itself that the body's like, no, no, we're not doing this. Stop, stop right there. We can't grow life, and the stress needs to stop. We need to save our lives from this saber-toothed tiger. So it's really starting to recognize all of the things around you and in your environment. And, this patient that I have, she's on her feet all day long. She's in the food business. And so she does a lot of food prep. And so there's a lot of standing and looking down, and it's a lot of this kind of thing. And every time we bend forward and stand in those positions, we're compressing our organs. So we don't have the proper blood flow. We don't have the proper oxygen. We don't have the proper nutrients and nourishment of those vital organs. So this is her business, is what she does. So, my advice to her is you come here and we're going to make sure that we keep things optimized through your adjustments. I'll get to see you for a few minutes a week. However, you need to be doing things on your own. Even just standing up straight and arching your back and doing shoulder openers all throughout the day to try to offset those fight or flight responses. The body needs that moment of rest so that it doesn't compound itself at the end of the day.
Well, so then let's just say this patient gets pregnant. Like, there's not one other time in life, in a human's life, where that much weight comes onto the body, but comes onto the spine in particular that quickly. So the change of gravity, the change of the center of gravity, the way that the spine has to move and shift, and the muscles have to, the baby has to push through into pregnancy, and then to descend down into the pelvis and come out in areas that haven't moved like that. Like, there's not another time in life that much weight gets put on the spine that quickly, and that much weight gets taken back off the spine that quickly. So you all of a sudden, in 9 months in, you have all this weight out in front, and that's putting so much stress. And a lot of women come in all during their pregnancies is what I suggest, but some will come in, it's the middle of the second trimester, all the way through the third, and then immediately afterwards, because there's also not a time where all that weight comes back off the spine, and the biomechanics of the spine change so much. Even not even talking about bouncing back to pre-pregnancy weight, like just taking a baby and getting it off the body is a very, very intense situation for the spine to then have to regulate around that. And then the core muscles, which hold and support the spine, now need to be reestablished in order to do that. And I got to tell you, and Dr. Paula and I were talking before, it's like chiropractic and pregnancy go together like peanut butter and jelly, truly. But I really don't know how people get through that entire process and then get to the other side of it through labor and delivery and don't use chiropractic care. Like, it boggles my mind that anybody would try and even do that without. And then also just the recovery on the other side. Like, it's so, so intense. And so we have both been trained to work with pregnant moms. Actually, I tell moms to come in when they're in labor, when they start labor, there's still time. Come in, get checked, get adjusted. I used to sneak into the hospitals. I don't do that. I don't do that as much anymore because moms are under care regularly. And, but I used to sneak in, and it was so interesting because one time I was at the birthing center down in Southfield. It's actually at the end of the hall, at the end of a hospital hall, there's an entire birthing center. It's so interesting because even guests could not visit the people in the normal labor and delivery hallway that you're walking through. But once you get past those doors, guests can come anytime. But up until 8 p.m. down this hallway that I'm literally walking through. And so I went into the room, and this mom was stuck in dystocia, which is just not progression, but I did a cervical spine adjustment. It's not even that the whole spine, the whole spine's affected, but the cervical spine adjustment allowed her waters to break. And it was like the body needed to get down into that sympathetic in order to then labor and deliver this baby well.
Parasympathetic.
Or parasympathetic. Yeah. It needed to go from this awfully just uncomfortable. So I never say that chiropractic helps make labor and delivery easy. Simpler.
I would say it lessens the likelihood that there could be complications.
Interventions. Interventions.
Yeah.
So
it's not, and of course, I'm certainly the poster child for doing all the right things and then having all the worst possibilities short of a C-section, right? But that's for I was told I was a witch in a former life, and I was paying the price for it. So that's a whole different conversation. But but I do want to comment, when you're talking about putting that much weight, really think about that. I never thought about it like that. You get that much weight on and that much weight off quickly. And we can't forget the fact that we have this hormone that starts in our body called relaxin. And relaxin is what allows the pelvic bowl to open up so that you can birth a human out of your vagina. And you still get relaxin going through the body, regardless if you have a C-section or not. But the problem with relaxin is it's not specific to the pelvic bowl. It is it goes through your system. So all of your joints get what I call loosey-goosey.
Mhm.
And this is why it's so important that we want to keep that pelvis and the spine in the best possible alignment. And it's probably not going to hold. It's probably not going to hold for very long because this relaxin wants to make things a little more loosey-goosey, and you're probably going to move out of alignment, which is why, we'll take, a lot of our pregnant mamas will recommend that they're here at least weekly, maybe a couple times a week in the last month or so of their pregnancy. But ultimately we're fighting against some of those hormones, and it really helps us. Again, we're trying to optimize spinal balance. The more balanced a being is, the more opportunity there is for healthy outcomes. And so and we know we do have studies that show that, but again, like, don't look at me, I'm the opposite of all of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and everybody, that's the other part too. I was talking with this pregnant woman on Tuesday. I have a couple of them that I see down at my other office. And they're like, every time I even say I'm pregnant, everybody brings their horror stories. Like, and I think it's just so important to, in school, we had to learn about all the things, right? So all these disease processes and how to differentially diagnose. So we used to literally draw out a button on our pages like this. And we would draw a delete button, and you probably can't even see that, but like a delete button on your computer. Why doesn't it let me do that? Delete.
Can't see it.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah.
Draw a delete button somewhere in your life. And when people give you a concept that you're like, that's not my experience, just literally press delete like you would press on your computer.
Yeah.
And so all these horror stories of like, I couldn't do it this way and I couldn't do it that way. And it was horrible this and horrible that. And it's like, just let these people have their own experience, please.
Well, and I tell all my pregnant women that, and I said, here, I always say this, my best piece of advice for you is don't take anybody's advice, because everybody is going to give you something different and unique that was unique to them. And that doesn't mean it's right. And it doesn't mean it's wrong. But there's an opportunity, I think, for women who either want to get pregnant or are pregnant to collect the data. That's really what it's about, is collect the data with grace, like take all the information, and then you can distill it down to what is going to work for you and what isn't. And this is also where, like, oh my gosh, the criticism of, co-sleeping. And it's like, if my baby's crying at 2 a.m., I'm going to take her and put her next to me and lie down and let her nurse so that I'm not having to sit up in a chair. I mean, like, there's a certain level of survival that takes place, and each and every person has to find what's right for them. So that's what I would say. Like, no. And if somebody comes at you and says, you've got to do it this way, that's like, you can just check that off the list. But the bottom line, the one thing we do want you to do, the one thing that you should be doing, is being under chiropractic care. We will say that.
I know. I wanted to reverse back. I got to find one of those little dolls. Do you remember those dolls? They were held together by a string and some beads, and they were on a platform, and you push the platform and the lost integrity.
Yeah.
And then you would release it and it would gain integrity. So I need to find one of those dolls, because that's sort of in essence, sort of what relaxin does to the body. So that's usually the last couple of months of pregnancy. And then you also have, let's just say, average 30 to 45-ish extra pounds on the spine. So, and the body in general and all the joints. So, we never guarantee a pain-free pregnancy. Like, that's not, or discomfort-free. I shouldn't say pain, but discomfort-free. Like, there's not a comfortable pregnancy. It's not built like that. I think especially at the end, it's like God's Head Start program of like, okay, ready to be done. Like, as soon as the brain is like, okay, ready to be done, that's usually at that time. But just being super mindful that it's that doll that loses integrity in the joints. And there's 4 joints on each one of the bones of the spine. And so it's like, it's all throughout the entire body. It doesn't target one spot. So that is even more reason to make sure that you get under good chiropractic care, but get under chiropractic care with an experienced, long history of helping a lot of women. Like there's a few chiropractors that are here in town. They haven't done the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association, none of their seminars. And, they're like, yeah, we're all qualified as chiropractors to see women, pregnant women, infants, and children. But I'm going to tell you, like, go seek out women and children, family specific chiropractors that have been doing it and in the game for a long time. It was funny. There's this chiropractor in town calling themselves modern chiropractors. Like,
what is that? What is
that's
a
no
modern?
such thing. Come to a modern chiropractic office. Chiropractic hasn't changed since 1895.
Right.
And just like we've gone back,
Our 33 principles prove that.
And nothing's been recalled and nothing's been changed since 1895. We've progressed a bit. Obviously, the first adjustment was given back then, so we had to progress through the adjustment. There's no such thing as a modern chiropractic.
Right.
Like,
no.
Oh, you want to go to modern medicine? Like, no, thank you.
What does that even mean? Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just a play on words. That's like, I would not go to somebody who's brand new out of school. I would pick, we're in 20 years in practice in 2 weeks. Dr. Paula is 26 years, I think, which we need to sit down and have a celebration.
Crazy. I know.
Um,
Well, that's when you're talking about there are different specialties that people can go and study post chiropractic. I did a few of the ICPA seminars when I was newly out of school, looking at some pediatric and pregnancy, adding that into my practice. I didn't continue with that. I didn't get a certification or anything, but, to Dr. Erica's point is that I have 27 years of working with families and pregnant women and babies and little kids. And it's amazing. But I will say this, if I have a woman who comes to me and her baby's breech, or there are some things that I'm like, I've been doing this for 27 years. I'm going to send you up to see Dr. Erica because she's got certain certifications that I don't, that I would feel very comfortable sending this patient to. So that's also, and I think when you're talking about making sure you have somebody with experience, I don't necessarily know if you're new in practice, if you're brand spanking new and you did a certification while you were in school or just out, I don't know how comfortable I would be with somebody who has a certification who's new in practice versus somebody who doesn't have a certification who's 27 years in practice, right? So you just have to find somebody who, really is, really weighing those options. And I think that it can make a difference, especially later on in the last trimester. But, ultimately, and I wanted to make one more comment as well, when you're being adjusted through your pregnancy, and that is, we just want to be able to optimize health. But going back to the relaxin situation is that just when you have that baby, it's not gone from your body. So it does take a few weeks for it to leave the body. So this is also a critical time that we say you've got to stay under chiropractic care, because if that pelvis goes out of alignment, if there's complications, and then you stop coming to the chiropractor right after you have the baby, now once it leaves, now what's going to happen is it's going to get locked out of the proper position. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to optimize your pelvic balance, your spinal balance, your upper cervical, while that's still in the system, slowly working its way out, so that when it's gone, now you're in a much greater optimized position and you should be able to hold that adjustment a little bit better.
Well, and the other part about it too is that now all of a sudden the weight that was down in the pelvis and on the lumbar spine is now in this posture as you're feeding and you're holding and you're rocking and you're doing everything to keep this baby moving through the days, but also carrying car seats, leaning over the diaper table, leaning over the crib or cradle, like all these compromising postures, but everything goes upper body, and also the breast engorge, and that's a lot more weight in the front for your upper back. Like everything is just this expansion contraction, and that is exactly what labor and delivery is. But it truly is like, as you go through, then you're taking a car seat. So this is the most stressful position your spine could ever be in. Now you can't even see my body here. So then when you lift from there, or you're like maneuvering this car seat in and out of the car, slightly bent forward and lifting
And
anything
twisting, let's
is
say, and
the
twisting.
most stressful. Yeah. And a bend forward and a twist.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most stress you can ever put on your spine ever. And so it's all of those positions now are all the things that your life requires. And that alone is going to create different stresses. And so moms are like, my upper spine is killing me. My neck hurts. I have headaches all the time. And so it's just, let us be part of just the motherhood transition in general. Preconception, let us help your body get ready. During all first, second, third trimester, we have different things that we do. And then the fourth trimester is technically what it's called, after when the body's still doing relaxin, still working through, hormones are starting to change. You're sort of beginning to gain the corseting of the body, and the spine begins to happen. Your core starts to get re-engaged. The uterus is starting to do its thing. And then just beyond that, and of course we see infants and children,
And the
all
baby
of
in,
it.
let's check it. Well,
Yeah, all of
and we
it.
can't, we have to, before we sign off today, we do have to also mention the fact that we put so much of this responsibility on women for taking care of their bodies. Yes, they do house the baby, and that vessel needs to be as clean and clear as possible. But men, you are not off the hook. I do feel like we're not putting enough responsibility onto the men, because when we talked earlier about, there's microplastics in testicles, and there's microplastics and toxins in the cord blood, and that men's sperm is 60 days old when it comes out. So whatever partying that dad was doing, and whatever drinking and partying and vaping, whatever you were doing, your pizzas, I don't even know. But all of that, it translates into the DNA that is your sperm. And it's 60 days old. So men need to really be paying attention as well, and making sure that they are detoxing and cleaning up shop. And guess what? You're going to be carrying the baby. You're going to be carrying the car seats. Your spine is going to be completely out of whack as well. So we're, trying to have these conversations to be able to say, dads don't get off the hook on this. Like, dads need to, you guys, in order to be a healthy family, mom, dad, baby, like all under care, to make sure that your nervous systems are sound. You're able to experience life. You're able to be as calm and relaxed and be in that parasympathetic rest, digest, and repair, while you're in the face of the being chased by a saber-toothed tiger of newfound parenthood. So I did just want to make sure we commented on that, because I don't want men to be like, yeah, I'm good. Nope,
Yeah,
you're not. You are not.
know. I have this new baby we started earlier this week, and I saw mom all the way through pregnancy, and they had this beautiful delivery with a midwife at a birthing center. And actually they did end up getting transferred to the hospital, but only for surveillance. She was still able to have exactly how she wanted to. They needed just a little extra oomph and to get over there. And it's so sweet, because dad actually has 3 months off of work, like paternity leave. It's such a beautiful thing to see these days. That, it's not about, I had one of our massage therapists, she has a little one now, it's about to turn 1. And she's like, there's a lot of our clients are pushing for me to extend my hours and all of this. I'm like, they're saying that. And yes, they do want that. And of course we would take you for extended hours if we could have you 100%. And the most important job out there is having healthy babe. Mm-hmm. And if that means that life scales back in certain ways so that mom and dad can tend to little one. It's so beautiful to watch this new family come in this week, and dad is just off to be able to be dad, and he is holding babe and then transferring babe onto mom so I could adjust babe. And it's just the sweetest thing. And I think if more of our world and our culture could be that way, what a beautiful world we would be creating long term. It's really beautiful. So yeah.
And that speaks to the whole work-life balance, and that doesn't exist. It's not a 50-50 split.
Mhm.
it changes with different phases of life. And I think that's absolutely one of those phases of life where work-life balance becomes, there's a little more on the life side and a little less on the work
On the
side, and
website, yeah.
paying attention to that. So, well, all
That went
great things.
fast.
So what's that?
That went fast.
I know that did go fast.
We've
Wow.
got
Whew.
we've got probably 5, at least 5 episodes inside of this
I was
world of
just going to say we should
talking
probably do part 2 next week.
yeah,
Yeah.
family, pregnancy, labor, delivery,
Yeah.
just all the things to be able to, there's just
Write
so
it
much to
down. We'll go to that next week.
that. Awesome.
All right. Well,
Thanks
listen,
for
thank you
being
guys for
here.
being
Bye,
here. We
Jill.
appreciate all your comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure
Please
you
do.
are following Dr. Erica, myself, and our brand new All Alone channel, Chiropractic is Sexy. Make sure
Everyone
you're
just came
following
by.
and sharing, leaving nice comments. And we appreciate you guys being here each and every week to support us. So please
We have
make sure you share
Cameo.
these out. And look at, hey, Lou. Hey,
Cameo.
Lou.
We have a Cameo. Bye,
All right. See
guys.
you guys next week.
Have the best week.
See ya. Bye.